What's up, guys? So I thought I might make a video about one idea that has been influencing my life for many years and helping me face life, deal with life, and approach life in a more secure way. And it's the idea that everything happens for the better. So it's a simple idea. Many people know it as everything happens for a reason. I see it as everything happens for a good reason, for a positive reason. So everything happens for the better in life. Now imagine this was true. Consider this as true for a moment, for as long as you watch this video. Imagine this was actually the truth. Imagine this was the truth which nobody knows about, or very few people know about. That everything in your life, every second of it, every millisecond of it, every action, every decision, every happening outside of you, inside of you, even in your mind, that everything happens for the better. Imagine that everything that's happening, the movement of your life, the unfolding of the story of your life, second to second, day to day, week to week, year by year, happened for the better. Imagine this is how life works, yet we don't know. Imagine this was actually the truth. Imagine this is actually the process by which life moves, that everything happens for the better for everyone. Imagine life was this incredibly intelligent creation that is perfectly synchronized in a way in which every decision that is being made, every movement that happens to the benefit of everyone, even though it's not seen like that, even though it's not visible. It's very hard to see that, especially once we hold these belief systems of life is random, life is a bitch, life is hard, life is there to get me, and so on. But imagine everything happens for the better in life. And this especially includes the hard things, includes the toughest things, even the sicknesses, the illnesses we have, the things that didn't go our way, the failures we had, the mistakes we made, the things which we feel so guilty about, the things which we feel like we failed and we regret and we blame ourselves and we judge ourselves, or we hate that they happened to us. Even some of the hardest things in our life that may have happened in our childhood or recently, or this idea that everything happens for the better includes, or more specifically applies to those hard moments. And imagine this was the truth. Consider this for a moment again, that this is how life actually works in the background, and some of us know it and are very relaxed because we know, well, whatever is happening is for the best. I do my thing, I do what I can, the best I can, yet I know that whatever happens actually, whatever I end up doing, whatever ends up happening with my work, with my job, with my relationship, with my kids, with my clients, whoever, we all do our best, but in the end, regardless of what we do, it's all for the best, for everyone included. Imagine this was the background rule or law that functions in the background of life. Imagine this is how life actually already works. And some of us know that, and we're relaxed, we're secure in how we approach life. We're not needy about things happening in a certain way and therefore anxious, because we get anxious when we're holding on to certain expectations, rather than doing our best and letting life flow the way it must, knowing that everything will turn out for the best. Even if it goes to shit for a moment, or things don't seem to be happening exactly as we wanted them to. They don't happen as we want them to because they happen as life wants them to, so that it can be better for us. And if I had to choose between my way, the way that I think is best for me, and life's way, I would always choose life's way. Because my way is really the way that my mind thinks and thinks, okay, this is what I really need, this is what I want. And typically those desires, those imaginations that I have, those expectations that I have are really based on self-protection and fear and some form of neediness, some form of, I need this outcome because this is what I think will give me what I want. And life is sitting here is like, no, you think this is what you need and this is a fear-based desire you have, but this is what you really need. This is what you really want. This is what will help you actually. And sometimes it may be some things going to shit. Losing something, losing your house or housing, or losing your partner, or losing your job, or, having a little, accident or getting hurt in some way. Sometimes that may be the actual best thing you need. And your mind will never want this. Your way will never include that, because your way always thinks, I need just the best things. And sometimes those good things are just not serving us. So imagine again that this was the way life worked in the background, and some of us know it and are relaxed through the way we go in life, through life. And some of us don't know it, and we stress out all the time. We freak out. Everything that happens to us feels like a threat, and I feel that, this is such a powerful concept and idea that I love because it was most valuable for me. I've always had to deal with anxiety, with all kinds of anxiety, all kinds of fear. So this was something very helpful for me to allow me to relax, to allow me to take life easily. And once you start seeing this as your new way of approaching life, that everything happens for the better, everything happens for my benefit, to my benefit. Everything is here to help me. Everything that is happening outside of me, the actions of what other people do, the circumstances that I'm facing, and inside as well, the body, the illnesses we have, or even the thoughts. Like every thought is for the better. Every sensation, every emotion. Like I got angry, for example. I get angry. Cool, that's for the better. I got anxious, for example. Cool, that's for the better. I got insecure. Cool, that's for the better. And we don't necessarily need to know how this is for the better, but we can actually just know that it is. And this is not some make-believe idea. Once you actually start, it comes into your awareness that this may be a possibility of how life works. Once you start considering that, you actually start noticing how everything happens for the better. You start paying attention to what's happening today, and really, let's say the things you don't really like, and then by the end of the day, or by the end of the week, or by the end of the month, you start seeing that those things that happened that I thought in the moment that were bad, they are actually gifts, great things. They actually led to something better. So you start seeing the connection, the chain connection between the things you didn't like or you thought were a threat or bad for you, were there to hurt you or there to make your life hard. They were actually there to help you. They were there to prepare the ground for a good thing to come. That's how I see the hard things, the bad things in our life. Although they may be very hard and they may suck so much in the moment, if we know that they are actually preparing the ground for good things to come, for good things to show up in our life. I work with people with their relationships, and typically they reach out to me when their partner has left, their woman has left. Typically I work with men, and their girlfriend has left, or their wife has divorced them, or left them, or wants a divorce, and they are in pain, which is great, because although that pain sucks, that pain is the greatest stimulator, the greatest stimulant for them to really stop, slow down, and question their approach to marriage, their approach to relationships. And the smart ones, they don't have to go, through one breakup and then another breakup and then another breakup. Some people go like that for a lifetime. But the people who are really in pain and, right now when they are in pain, they seek advice, they start questioning their approach to relationships, they eventually come to realize that this is a great gift. The pain is a great gift because it motivates them to improve their approach to love. And the way I teach is that there's just two ways to love. You have the insecure way, which is the needy way, which is the default way, which is how most people love. Insecure means that we're holding on to our partner. We're afraid of losing them. We feel like we need them to be happy. This is how most people love someone. Like when we love someone, we're also afraid of loss. And there's the secure way, which is when you can love someone, honestly care deeply for them, and be totally okay with them walking away the next day. And you can look into their eyes, into your partner's eye, and be like, I love you with all my heart, yet I know I'll be fine without you. I know, like, if you need to go, I want you to go, because it means it's not a fit anymore. What if I need to go, because if I'm not happy in this relationship and we try to make it better, then I can go away as well. So there's two ways to love, secure and insecure. And I help people love in a secure way. And I give them the mindset bridge to come to a place of love in a secure way. So when people reach out, they come in pain. And that pain is a great gift. So it's a gift that motivates them to get the right mindset, the secure mindset, so that now they can have a proper relationship and maybe get the ex back, maybe save the relationship they're in right now, which happens many times. But sometimes people, once they change, they don't even want the previous relationship because they realize it wasn't a good fit. Now their eyes are opened. Many people say, after doing this work, they feel like they are awakened. Like they have been dreaming in the dream of insecurity, the dream of fear and neediness. And now they're ready to see that actually this was not a fit, and they are grateful for the breakup and for the pain. So that's an example of how a breakup can serve as for the better, which it always is. Even when we don't see, even when that pain doesn't lead to us changing our approach to relationships, it becomes another confirmation, another sign that we're doing things wrong, and maybe we're not ready yet to change. So then maybe we go to another breakup, another relationship, another person that we love, and then she ends up leaving or he ends up leaving us because our approach is the insecure one. And then we still don't get it, or we try to get it. We read like 5 relationship books, the 5 love languages, or some other marriage advice, which deals with surface stuff, good stuff, but surface stuff, not the root issue. It doesn't change our approach; it just changes some behavior. And then we try, and then we go to another relationship or marriage, and then that fails, and then eventually we get into so much pain and frustration that it brings us to a point of questioning stuff and changing, right? So no pain in our life, no hardship is wasted. Every hardship is there to serve a good purpose. I see it as the hard things are like the seeds of the good things to come. So, but for a good thing to show up in our life from a hard thing, from a bad thing, from a painful thing, that seed has to grow. So it may take a little bit of time. Sometimes the next day you can see it, the same day you can see that this person rejecting me. Let's just say you go to a party. Let's just talk about relationships for a moment. And you talk to someone and they kind of reject you. They don't really want to speak with you. And you feel like, oh my God, nobody likes me. People hate me. I'm never going to find someone. I'm going to be lonely for the rest of my life. I'm never going to figure out this relationship thing. And then you go home and you sit on your bed and you're reflecting on the day and you realize that actually if I had to choose to be married to that person who rejected me, they actually would not be my ideal partner. So you realize that actually that thing which I thought of being bad was actually a great thing, and maybe you realize the same day, right? Other times you realize it a few weeks, months later. When I was much younger, I'm still young, right? But 7 years ago, I was working for a company as a freelancer. I was a copywriter for a company. I was working from home, getting really good, salary, and so on. And then they let me off. After about 9 months, they they fired me in a way because they just didn't have the resources to pay me. And at the time, it seemed like a bad thing that I lost the job that I had, which was an amazing job, my ideal job. I remember when I got the job 9 months before being let off, I was jumping around and like screaming and yelling like, yeah, I did it. I made it. I got this job. And, I was in university at the time. I was in a marketing school in Denmark. And my colleagues were working like deposits and stuff. And I was working online through marketing, doing copywriting. I felt like so proud. And then 9 months later, they let me off. And that felt like a bad thing. But this, in the next few months, led me to actually start my first blog about relationships. It was about long-distance relationships. And I started writing and really helping people sustain that passion in a long-distance relationship. Because I felt like there was so much common and kind of BS advice, just common sense advice about relationships for long-distance couples. And I thought I need to bring in some real practical advice to dealing with arguments, creating attraction, dealing with jealousy, keeping the passion, and so on. So I started the blog, became very famous, very popular. Now it's been the last 5 years, it's been visited by a few million, maybe like 6 or 7, maybe even 10 million people in the last 5 years. It's not my main focus these days, the long distance blog, but that's an example of a story where losing a job led me to actually following my passion and becoming who I've become, a relationship guide or mentor for people. So I see these stories all the time, and it's very visible as well with relationships. When you lose someone you think was the only person that you could be happy with, and then you find someone even better, which is usually happens, especially if you do the inner work. Then it's very clear that losing the previous one, even though in the moment you felt like it was a bad thing, it's actually the greatest gift. There's many stories I could share with you about this stuff, but really I want you to consider this idea for yourself, to consider it today, at least today, that everything happens for the better. Again, imagine this was the truth. Imagine this was the way life works. How would you feel today? How would you feel about the bad things that are happening to you today or that have happened in the last week or the last few days, the last months? How would you face the future? What kind of decisions would you make from now on if you knew that whatever decision you made was for the best? What if you could never fail? What if life was a game you could never lose? Because even if you make a decision that seems to be a mistake and leads to a failure, it has shown you how not to approach a certain thing. Like imagine you're going to the stove right now, and the stove is red hot, and you put your finger on the stove, and you burn your finger a little bit. Now, you had to make a decision. Should you put your finger on the stove or not put the finger on the stove? Right? Now, what if both of these decisions were for the better? If you end up making any of them, it's for the better. If you don't put this finger on the stove, it's for the better. You don't get your finger burned, right? If you do put the finger on the stove, it's for the better, because you learn that putting the finger on the stove is not a good thing for you, right? So either way you win. Because if your conditioning, if your operating system decides that it has to put the finger on the stove, then that was inevitable. That is exactly what needed to happen based on your conditioning, based on your thought process in the moment, based on your level of understanding life and fire and, stoves and cooking and so on. That was the decision that had to happen. Right? So you actually had to make the decision. And given that you had to make it, it's the thing that actually led to, a lesson, which was very valuable, which is that you don't want to put the finger on the stove. So either way you win. So what if life was the same thing? What if you could never lose in life? What if life was a game You could never lose because you're always winning. My belief and my understanding is that this is exactly how life works. And I've been, reflecting and studying and exploring life and all kinds of areas and spirituality and so on for many years now. Spirituality for at least 5 years. Personal growth and so on for the last 10 or if not more. So this has become very clear. This is how life works. It's everything happens for the better. Again, one phrase that I use sometimes is that if life fucks you, it's because it wants to give you an orgasm. And life is good and bad. Life doesn't fuck you without an orgasm. So if we think that something bad happens, it's actually because something good is coming out of it. And we don't need to worry actually much. We don't need to think of like, what is the good thing that's going to come out of this? We can just be curious. Like sometimes at this point in my life and for a while actually, although I would get angry sometimes that something would happen in the moment, I would feel threatened in the moment. At this point, it's become clear enough for me to know that something good will come out of something bad that I think is happening. Like a mess will turn out for the best. This is also like a little mantra for me as well, that every mess or this mess will turn out for the best. Everything that seems messy, inner stuff, maybe some inner pain, some inner like anxiety or fear or even depression, it's a mess, right? It's an inner mess. And I know that every mess will turn out for the best. Or maybe an outer mess. Like we were here in the US a few months ago looking for housing, and it was very hard. We were staying at a hotel, and it was very expensive, and we had to find some housing. And we were looking with my wife for a few weeks, for 2 weeks, and we couldn't find it. And although I was kind of stressed, this was an outer mess. But I knew inside of me that it's going to turn out for the best. I didn't know how, and I was still a little bit stressed, but also at the same time knowing that it's for the best. Something will come out, something good will come out of this. And just by chance, right, a few days later, we found a house for a really good price, given the conditions. I mean, this is the house we live in right now. It's an amazing place to live in. It's a beautiful house, and we're paying at least half how much people should pay for this kind of house. With some really amazing owners, we became great friends. So that mess turned out for the best. Obviously, it always does. We just need to know it is and not even worry about how it will happen, just knowing that it will. And once you start, seeing this pattern of life, that everything happens for the best, you may want to actually look back into your life and start seeing how the bad things that happened to you in the last 5-10 years, maybe 1 year, turned out were chain links in the chain of events that led to better things in your life. And once you start seeing a few confirmations like this, your mind will be blown. You'll be like, fuck, this is how life works. This is how it's always been working. And I never noticed that. I never trusted it. And of course, our mind is very insecure. It doesn't trust what is not very clear. And it may take some time. It may take a while to really embody this message, this idea that I'm sharing. But as long as you start seeing some confirmations from your past, some bad things, which at the time you thought were bad, how they led, you start seeing how they actually led to something great. Like, for example, losing a person you loved, a lover you love, led to something great. Maybe to a change in your approach to relationships, which is what happens with the people I work with, so they can fix that now for the rest of their life, or maybe to finding someone much better. Maybe a job, like, in my case, I lost the job that I loved, my dream job at the time, to find a better dream job, following my passion, being my own boss, being a guide, a mentor, and a blogger, having all this freedom, all kinds of stuff. Being fired from some work, having a fight and an argument. Like, I know, like, I've been with my wife for 9 years, almost 10, And I know for a fact every argument we have always leads to some big lesson, always leads to our relationship getting better. I don't even try to make it like that. And I have a gift actually on my hand. This is a tattoo. It's a gift box, which I'm going to show you in a moment, because it relates to the same message that I'm discussing. So this is a gift box. So it's a reminder for me that everything is a gift. Everything is a gift in disguise. The bad things that happen, although they may feel like bad things, they may seem like that, and the mind may freak out. This gift that is like so visible, it's always visible. Like I'm writing something and it's always here. I see it. All I have to do is just turn my head and just where I'm driving. My wife was just saying recently, like, it's so fun to see you drive, and she sees the gift here. It's just a reminder that everything is a gift in life. Everything is for the best. It's happening to our benefit. And like I was saying, and I didn't finish this train of thought, that these days, when something bad happens, instead of freaking out, sure, in the moment, the nervous system may react with fear for a moment, but then I remember that everything is for the best, where I see the gift, where I just know already it's become a part of me. And instead of freaking out when bad things happen, I get curious. So fear gets replaced with curiosity. I get curious, like, how will this, I know this is going to be for the best. I know something good is coming. I know the orgasm is coming. I don't know when or how. Maybe, could be in a year. I don't care. I'm not trying to look for the orgasm, but I know there's going to be an orgasm out of this. So I get curious, like, what is the good thing coming out of, what is this, how am I being saved right now? How am I being helped right now through this quote-unquote shitty thing? So this has become very clear for me. Like whenever something doesn't go my way, I know it goes life's way. It goes the right way. My way is not the right way. Sometimes my way is the right way. I kind of like get lucky to predict what's the right way, but most of the times, or many times, my way is not the right way. Life's way is the right way. You can say life's way of God, or God's way, or God's will, or however you want to call it, or the way of the universe, or the way of the source, or the way of the consciousness, or you can go as deep as you want with this. But I just like to call it life's way. I feel like life is, and here's actually one way to see this that might make sense logically. Imagine life on planet Earth, let's just say just on this scale, planet Earth, is one big event. Just one organism. Earth is the one cell. It's one organism, and all the people on planet is like they're participating in one big event. It's all one big wedding happening, one big party, and this event happened many years ago, and or millions of years, or hundred thousands of years ago, and this event is constantly going, right? And the event is moving in a positive direction. The whole event of humanity, the whole collective thing. And the event actually that I would suggest that's happening is the event of us figuring out, it's almost like a workshop, us figuring out how to live this life, how to live life properly. So then if everyone is going through an event of figuring out life, figuring out how to live life in a way that gives us most joy, most happiness. Let's say that's the driving force, being happy. And we all try, to be happy in our own ways. And then every way that we try to be happy that does not work is a lesson into how we should not approach it. So this is a way that might help you a little bit. I don't know if you see the correlation between everything happens for the better and this one big event, with so many, like 7.5 billion people figuring out how life works, allows for everything to happen for the better. And actually, an idea which also may relate to this is that the more we understand how life works, the happier we are, So then everything we do is really a lesson. It's really a way to figure out how life works so that then we can know how it works better. And the more we understand how it works, the more we can enjoy it. Imagine you're trying to drive a car and you have no idea how to drive it, right? So every mistake you make with driving that car is a step forward. It's not a mistake. It's not a failure. It's a step forward because you realize, okay, I shouldn't put it in, backward driving, rear, whatever, if I want to go forward. So now that's not the way. So it's not a mistake. It's not a failure. It's a step forward, right? So every bad choice we made in life was not wasted. No bad choices are wasted. Our brain, our mind never wastes anything. It always learns. It's always learning. Even when you don't think you're learning, you're always learning. Especially when you don't think you're learning most. Actually, like if you go, for example, to a workshop and you take your notes and everything, and you think, oh, I'm learning so much. I don't know. If you put away and I've always took notes whenever I'm watching something. I try to take notes, but lately I realized that notes are actually slowing down the learning process. When I just relax and just listen to someone speak, just like you may be listening right now, that's when you learn most. You learn exactly what you need to learn. Not trying to kind of save ideas and then who cares? Because I have like stocks of block notes with notes that I never look at. Forget about taking notes. That's like a side note. But I was talking about mistakes and driving a car, right? So every mistake we make is actually a step forward. Every bad decision we made in the past was actually a step forward because it was not wasted. It was a lesson. It was, sometimes it's not just a lesson. It's actually a redirection and towards something better. And actually, let's talk about failure for a moment. Like we think failure doesn't exist. Actually, nobody can fail. Failure doesn't exist. Failure is really the judgment of a moment in time in a longer process. So let's say the process is this. So this is, let's say the baby tries to walk. The baby tries the first time to walk here. And then here's where the baby is walking and running. And we think, and let's say the baby tries to walk a few times and keeps falling. And it falls, let's say it has been falling many times, but then this time it kind of has fallen. And let's say the father looks at the baby and laughs. Let's say, and the baby thinks, let's just imagine the baby thinks logically at that time and so rationally. It thinks, okay, I failed, but that's not a failure. It's a long process of learning to walk, and failure is the judgment of that point in time. So it's not a failure, it's actually a step forward. It's the same with businesses, it's the same with relationships. You've never failed in your life. You've always learned, you've always been taking steps forward. Everything was for the better. So the failure of a business was not a failure. You have to learn how to have a proper business. And nobody is born knowing this stuff. So every failure is actually just the judgment of that point in time where you were actually not properly ready yet or didn't understand business well enough to be able to succeed at that time. It doesn't mean you failed or you're a failure. It just means that you've judged that moment in time, but that's just a moment in time of a long learning process. And when you understand how business works, success is inevitable. I mean, it's just inevitable. Just like if you learn how to drive a car, you're going to drive it well. It's inevitable because you just do the right things and everything is fine. It's the same with business. It's exactly the same with business. You just have to get it, right? Same with relationships. This is how I felt. When I was learning about relationships many years ago, I thought this was the most confusing, the most frustrating, the most annoying topic ever because it felt so subjective. It felt so confusing. Women felt so hard to understand. And I'm sure women feel the same thing about men. Because I was at the point in time where I just didn't get it yet. But once I got it, I was like, fuck, this is so simple. Relationships are so freaking simple. They're extremely simple. But it's because I've been through the process. I failed enough and I've learned the lessons I needed to learn. And now, with my work, I help people shorten that process and really have that mindset change in a few weeks rather than, 5 years or something, or maybe a lifetime that many people go through trying to figure out relationships. So every failed relationship it's not actually failed, it's just a learning experience. If you see it as a failure, you're just judging that moment in time from a long process of learning how relationships work. Trust me, everything can be learned. Everything in life that's really the process of life. That's what this whole event is about. This whole human event that you can imagine life as happening is this event where everybody's trying to figure out how life works. Like, we're trying to figure out how life works individually. We're trying to figure out how life works collectively, on a country level, on a government level, on a humanity level, how to, not ruin the whole planet in a few years, in a few decades. We're trying to figure out how to live together, how to love each other. And we're learning. I mean, this is where we are right now at this point in time. It's much better than where we were, a few hundred years ago. I mean, 100 years ago, we were, in some wars, some crazy world wars, right? And we learned that was a good thing. The world war was a good thing. It's exactly what needed to happen at the time to lead to the, experiences and circumstances that it led to, so that then we can move on having learned that lesson. So again, the idea that I'm talking about here, that I just felt inspired to talk about today, is that everything happens for the better, right? And every bad thing in our life is like a seed in the ground that is gonna grow in a beautiful thing. So the bad things are the seeds of the good things, and it may take some time. And we need to trust time, to trust that time will show how this is for the best. I don't need to worry right now. I just need to remember this mantra from Livius that says every mess is for the best. This mess is for the best. I don't know how, I don't see it yet, I don't care. I just know it is, so I can be curious and really go with my day. So I can do my natural best and leave life the rest. Leave God the rest. Don't need to worry about making the right decisions. Just do what naturally feels good, and then this will lead to what it needs to lead, and that's going to be for the best, and that's how life works. So yeah, I'm gonna share an exercise with you right now for you to start maybe sensing how true this idea is. So just after this video, take a pen and paper and think about three things that happened the last 5 years. 3 bad things that you think were horrible for you that happened in the last 5 years. Maybe you lost someone, maybe you made a big mistake, maybe you did something horrible, maybe you had an illness. Think of 3 things that happened in the last 5 years. And then, so you could take like a piece of paper and divide it into 2 parts, like make a line, straight line like this, and on the left you can write the bad things that happened, and the right you can say, like, as a correlation arrow, it led to this. And think of what each of those bad things led to, that you can see as far as now. And chances are you can see a lot of those things. You can see a lot of the good things it led to. It may have led to a lot of good things. And again, it's not just lessons, guys. Like, that's one of the misunderstandings, that every mistake or every bad thing is it leads to a good lesson. Lessons are great. Lessons are very valuable. But not only lessons, they prepare the ground for another experience to happen. Like, for example, meeting, let's say I talk to a girl and she rejects me. That's not really a rejection, it's a redirection. She's redirecting me. It doesn't have to be a lesson. It can be also a lesson and something else, but it's not only lessons that are the good things that come out of the bad things. It can be just redirections, or it can be us being led to something better for us. So her rejecting me is her telling me that I'm not a good fit for her, or that's how she feels, and this means she's not a good fit for me either, because for it to be a good fit, both people have to love, adore each other. If one of the people doesn't adore the other one, it's not a good fit for both. So both people are losing. So when, I know many people actually lust after someone who they love, but they are not loved back. So unrequited love, it's called, I think. Or even excess, right? But they don't realize that if one of the people in a relationship doesn't like the other, it's not a good fit for both of them, right? We don't understand that. We don't realize that unless we become secure, unless we start understanding relationships properly, and we change our mindset and so on. So I was giving you the exercise, right, of looking at 3 things that happened in the last 5 years, and then look at how this led to something good. And it could be many things that happened as a result of that bad thing. Maybe you got robbed. Maybe your house got robbed. Maybe you got robbed in the street. Your phone got robbed. Your purse got robbed. How did that lead to something better? And it could be so many things. It could be that you learned to be more careful and possibly avoided losing a lot more money, a lot more valuables because you became more careful. Maybe losing that, purse led you to the police station, and at the police station, this policeman was very handsome, and he asked you for a date, and then you made 5 babies with him. Maybe you got married. So you see, it's not just lessons, it's really redirecting you, leading you to where you need to go. Or maybe, you were sitting on the bench and crying that you lost your purse, for example. I'm speaking to a woman right now. And you were sitting on the bench and you had this big realization. You had this realization that, you keep acting like a victim in life. Like you keep being a victim in life, and you're tired of that bullshit. And you want to be a creator. You want to be the one you want to take your life in your own hands. So the loss of the purse led to the inner insight. It led to something, to a change in your way of approaching life. So for me, for example, sometimes the way this would apply, like I would run toward the bus when I was much younger, and the bus would pass just in front of me. I was like, fuck, I have to stay here for half an hour. But I also knew that everything is for the best, so I thought like, okay, staying here for half an hour, maybe it leads to some powerful realization that I have, some powerful idea that I have that I would have not had I been in the bus. So I would just sit and reflect and think, and sometimes it would lead to some really cool insight, because I would be because I'm a philosopher, I'm a huge thinker. That's what my life is about. I help people figure out life, figure out relationships. I want to live a better life myself. So the best gift that can happen for me, the best gift that can be given to me, the best orgasm that I can have is a huge insight, is an insight about life. Like I don't want any other orgasm. In any other form, I want a moment of clarity. For me, that's like the best, like, I feel blissful for, a few hours or for a day or for a few days. So, that's just an example with, this kind of circumstances. So for you to do the exercise, what is one good thing or many good things, but what is, like, let's just say one main one that came out of that bad thing that you thought was against you, was a threat to you, and then you realize it was a treat. So when you understand that everything happens for the better, threats, I hope I'm pronouncing this great, threats lead to treats. So this is how life works actually. This is what I see, this is how I believe, and this is what all the mentors and teachers and everyone from Rumi to all kinds of spiritual teachers, you can go through them all at once, Adyashanti, Krishnamurti, and so on, Eckhart Tolle, that are more Jesus, if you want, Buddha, and so on. They all speak about the same thing, that everything happens for the better, it's just they don't use the same language. They say it in different words. Rumi, for example, is a Sufi poet, beautiful poet, I haven't read him that much, but what I've seen so far from him is like it's amazing. He was an awakened being, an enlightened being, and he keeps saying, one of the ways he describes life is like a free falling. It's a free falling without anything to hurt us, right? So anyway, I forget the quote from Rumi, but this is what I've seen so far in terms of how life works. Everything is for the best. And if you do this exercise, you'll start noticing, so I'm playing with my ring, you'll start noticing how those bad things led to some good things. And I invite you as well as another exercise, actually. And by the way, if you have some cool realization, let me know and be like, Livius, I realized that this is, actually the truth for me. This is what happened to me as well. Like, if you have a story to share, you can share it under this video or in a comment, in a private message or something. It would be fun to see different stories. I've seen stories like this with every client I have, and there's so many other stories. Like, read the book, for example, Chicken Soup for the Soul. I think it's called When Life Gives You Lemons, You Make Lemonade or something. It's full of stories of people having hardships and this leading to great things in their life. And I mean, whenever you ask someone how their life was and they tell you about like the hard things that happened to them, and you ask them, would you change something from your life? Most people would say no. I would not change my life for anything. This is it was perfect. It was exactly how it needed to be, even though it included all these hardships. Because with years and with enough perspective, we can see how each of those bad things were actually seeds for good things to come. It was actually life fucking us and doing really well and hurting so badly that it would eventually lead to an orgasm. So I was inviting you to do another exercise, which could be just start paying attention through the day. Today, in the last few days, I think also in the last few days, some things that you didn't like, how they led to something good. Or even start thinking, just paying attention from now on, from today, tomorrow, to the day after tomorrow, and and so on. Start paying attention. You'll see small versions. It doesn't have to be huge versions of something super bad happening to you. It could be something very small. Like, for example, you go to a shop and it's closed, and you're like, oh shit, I wanted to buy something, and then maybe you have a walk and you find something else. You find a different shop and you buy something much better than the previous one, than you would have bought from the other one. It's just simple. Notice simple things as well, and your mind will be blown. Like, I see this all the time. That's why for me it's just such a clear pattern of life, because you see it all the time. I'm just thinking of some examples to give you, but nothing comes to mind. This reminds me of teasing and creating attraction in relationships. Like, I always do this with my wife, but whenever I talk to a client, when we work on, not on the mindset is the foundation, but then we have the skill set, the perfect skill set for love. And when we work with the guys about that, about like creating attraction and so on, once they have the mindset, they are ready for the skill set. And I'm trying to give some examples, and unless I have them written down somewhere, I just cannot come up with some examples sometimes of like teasing, how I tease my wife, how I make I'm playful with her and so on, how I create this challenge. Although I'm doing it, 24/7, 20 times per day, I tease her and I'm playful with her like this. So it's the same with this, because it's happening so many times. You see so many different examples of, okay, this was not how I wanted it, but it's actually for the best. So hope this actually gave you a glimpse of hope for life, because once you understand this, your approach to life changes. Like, really, your attitude for life changes. and you start being more relaxed and more empowered and more ballsy, more courageous, less needy, more secure. This is one way of being secure about life as well. Also about relationships. Like when you have this idea that everything happens for the better, can apply to relationships. Like for example, we worry about the fear of loss. What if I lose my wife? What if I lose my girlfriend? What if I lose my partner? But what if you knew that if you actually lose them, it's for the best? What if you knew that? Then you would not worry about trying to hold on to them. And the moment you don't worry about trying to hold on to them, now they want to stay. Now they want to be here. Because you're not repelling them with your neediness, with your holding on, with your fear of loss. This is what pushes people away. My need of them, my trying to hold on to them, my fear of losing them. And if I know that everything is for the best, I mean, there's different, overcoming fear of loss is a huge process that I do in my work. But this is one of the ideas that you can use as well. If you knew that, if you had to lose your family, you had to go through divorce, you had to lose your house. Yeah, this is messy. This is a big mess. What if you knew that if that actually had to happen, it would be for the best, because it might hurt you badly enough to motivate you to start a business, for example, or to lead to another proper relationship, or to start changing your approach to relationships and marriage, so that in the next relationship you can be a great lover and have a beautiful family. So, I wanted to tell you actually about a book. A few years ago, I wrote a book, a short book. It's about 50 pages or something, or maybe less, maybe like 30 pages, by the name of Everything Happens for the Better. I haven't published it. I just share it with clients to enforce this message, to help them see it more clearly. So if you want the book, you can get it. You can read it for free, and you can tell me what you think, or if it helped you, or you don't need to tell me what you think, but you can get the book if you want. I haven't actually uploaded it yet, but I'm going to put it on thesecureman.com. Hey, man. Catherine says publish. Sure, maybe. Catherine, maybe you can read it and correct some grammar mistakes. That I need some help with that. And maybe I'll put it on Amazon. So I'm going to publish the book in the next few days. I'm just going to put it on the website, not publish it on officially. So you guys can read it if you want. It's about the same thing. It's explaining this idea that everything happens for the better in 30 pages in carefully chosen language, a lot of metaphors, examples, and stories, and so on. So you can go to thesecureman.com/for-the-better. I haven't, if you go right now to that link, you'll not find it, but after the video, I'll just, go to the site, put the book there, just thesecureman.com/for-the-better, with my accent, and you shall, you can see the book, you can read it, and who knows, maybe in the next few days, if you guys like it, or if I feel like it's the right thing to do, I might actually find someone to help me correct some grammar mistakes, because it's not my main language, English, and any book needs some grammar correction. And if we do that, then I might just put it on Amazon and help some people see life differently, because this is a life-changing message. Most people are afraid of speaking about this because it seems like such a elusive idea that everything happens for the better. But it's a message that the world needs to hear, because it's such an obvious truth. It has become so obvious for me, and I hope it's going to be obvious for you more and more. If you do the exercise of the 3 things that happened in the past 5 years, 3 bad things that happened in the past 5 years, and how they influenced your life in a positive way, and if you start noticing right now how every little things that you don't like throughout the day actually end up leading to something great. Simple things for me is for example, an argument with my wife. not that we argue so much, but when we do, it's always for the best. We always have a powerful lesson. Sometimes I just wake up, I feel like shit, and I feel like I have this bad state, and that state is really, I see it these days as a birthing process. I'm giving birth, and this is like the labor, this, bad mood and like, oh, life sucks. It's like me giving birth, having this labor pain, giving birth to an insight, giving birth to a new way of seeing things, to a new perspective, to better way of understanding my life and so on. So it's almost like labor pain for diamonds. Diamonds are created under pressure, so the pressure leads to diamonds. So anyway, there's so many different metaphors you can use for this stuff. Yeah, you can get the book. I'll put it there, and you can do the exercises. Actually, one more exercise I'm going to share with you. The same thing with looking at the past 5 years and looking at the three bad things that happened. Do the opposite as well. That's another exercise. Find 3 things that happened, 3 amazing things that you're so proud of yourself for doing, or so amazing, you're so grateful for them. So 3 amazing things that happened in the last 5 years. And then trace them back to something shitty that happened, that actually without that quote-unquote shitty thing, those bad things would have not been possible. For the love of God, that would have not happened. Trace those back. Like I know, Catherine, if you're watching this, I was speaking to you at some point, and you were saying that you discovered the work of Kyle Cease, which is a great guy about helping people approach life and business from a place of heart and joy, not head and fear. Great mentor for me as well. But I know you were telling me how you had some health issues, which allowed you to lose your job, I think, or to move states, and then discover the work of this guy. Now, if you had never discovered the work of this guy, Kyle Cease, your life would have been different. And now you're on a path to living life differently, following your joy, not your fear, not the conditioning, not society, not all kind of bullshit that most people are following until they get tired enough to stop and question things. So yeah, trace good things. That's an exercise. Trace good things that happened the last 5 years, 3 good things, and trace them back to something bad that happened. In your mind will be like, fuck, this guy is speaking some truth here. This guy, Catherine said, so true. Like this guy is onto something, and it's not just me. This has been a lesson, a phrase, everything happens for the better, that I learned about 10 years ago from my father. And since then, it's been a process of embodying it more and more and really noticing it and trusting it. Sometimes we need to trust it because our mind, our fearful mind comes in, is like, no, but this cannot be good. Well, you'll see. It is. It always is. Imagine how calm you can be if you knew that this was the truth. How relaxed, how ballsy, how courageous, how inspired, how empowered would you be? How secure would you be? If you knew you could never make a mistake, if you knew, because every mistake would be a step forward. If you knew you could never fail, if you knew you could never, because every failure is just a point in time, it's a step forward again. If you knew you could never make a bad decision, because every decision would lead to either a lesson, at least a lesson. I think the lessons are just the least that can happen, but at least a lesson, but also to some other experience, or redirecting you to some new directions in your life. All right, we're 59 minutes in, 14 seconds, 15 seconds, 16 seconds, 17, 18, and we're gonna close it now because I want it to be not more than an hour. So guys, thanks for watching. This was fun. And yeah, go get the book if you want, and I'll put it now. And may your lives change. May you live a better life. Live better, love better. I'm out.